Have you ever wondered what would happen if the future Queen of Spain wanted to deliver a speech that the palace believed could change everything? What if that speech became so controversial behind closed doors that even the king himself was pressured to stop it? Today's story explores one such fictional possibility. Imagine a moment when Princess Leonor stood at the center of Spain's future, preparing to deliver words that no one expected. A speech that wasn't filled with political declarations or dramatic accusations, but with something far more dangerous to the palace: complete honesty. According to this fictional story, everything began only days before one of the monarchy's most important public ceremonies. The palace communications office had already prepared the official speech. Every sentence had been reviewed. Every paragraph had been approved. Every pause had been rehearsed. Nothing was left to chance. For decades, royal speeches followed a familiar tradition. Measured, careful, neutral, safe. But this time something unexpected happened. Leonor quietly asked for permission to write part of the speech herself. At first, no one seemed concerned. After all, she had matured tremendously through military training, international education, and years of public appearances. Many advisors believed allowing her personal voice would strengthen the image of the crown. They assumed she would simply add warmer language. Instead, according to this fictional tale, she wrote something entirely different. She wrote about responsibility, about mistakes, about listening instead of commanding, about earning respect instead of expecting it, about a monarchy that must constantly prove its value to ordinary citizens. None of those ideas sounded controversial by themselves. But together, they represented something palace officials feared: authenticity. When early drafts reached senior advisors, the atmosphere reportedly changed immediately. One advisor allegedly whispered, "This doesn't sound like a royal speech." Another quietly responded, "Exactly." The draft eventually reached King Felipe. In this fictional story, he read every page slowly. Then he read it again. Not because the speech was offensive. Not because it criticized the crown. But because it sounded too personal. Too emotional. Too independent. The speech revealed a future queen thinking for herself. And some people believed that image carried enormous risks. Within hours an emergency meeting was supposedly scheduled. Communications experts, constitutional advisors, senior palace staff. Every paragraph was examined. Certain lines became immediate targets. Leonor reportedly wrote, "A crown earns trust every single day. It can never assume yesterday's respect guarantees tomorrow's confidence." Another passage declared, "Our generation asks difficult questions. Institutions should never fear answering them honestly." Then came perhaps the most debated sentence. According to this fictional account, she wrote, "The strongest leaders are those willing to admit they still have much to learn." Silence filled the room after that sentence. Nobody claimed the words were wrong. Instead, they worried about how they might be interpreted. Would critics say the monarchy was admitting weakness? Would newspapers twist the meaning? Would political commentators create unnecessary controversy? Soon suggestions arrived. Remove this paragraph. Rewrite that sentence. Replace these words. Avoid that topic. By the end of the meeting, nearly half the speech had been marked for revision. When Leonor received the edited version, she immediately noticed. Entire sections had disappeared. Her personal reflections were gone. The emotional opening had been replaced with formal language. Even the conclusion had changed. She politely asked who had approved the edits. According to this fictional story, no one answered directly. They simply said, "The palace believes this version better represents the institution." Leonor reportedly replied, "But does it represent me?" That simple question echoed through the room. For the first time, advisors realized the disagreement wasn't about grammar. It was about identity. Should the future queen speak with her own voice? Or only the palace's? News of the disagreement never reached the public. At least not officially. Inside the palace, however, tension continued growing. Some younger advisors quietly supported Leonor. They argued that modern audiences appreciated sincerity. People wanted to hear real emotions, real reflections, real humanity. Older officials remained unconvinced. Tradition had protected the monarchy for generations. Why risk changing that formula? Meanwhile, King Felipe found himself facing an impossible dilemma. In this fictional story, he admired his daughter's intelligence. He respected her judgment, but he also understood how easily every royal word could become international headlines. He knew a single misunderstood sentence might dominate news coverage for weeks. His responsibility wasn't only to his daughter. It was also to the institution he had sworn to protect. According to the fictional narrative, father and daughter eventually met privately. No advisors. No cameras. No official notes. Just the two of them. Leonor asked one question. Do you trust me? Felipe didn't answer immediately. Instead, he reportedly looked out the palace window before quietly responding. I trust you completely. She smiled. Then why can't I speak honestly? The king answered with equal honesty. Because sometimes honesty carries consequences beyond the person speaking. Neither interrupted the other. Neither raised their voice. It wasn't an argument. It was two generations trying to understand each other. Leonor believed the monarchy's future depended on openness. Felipe believed its future depended on stability. Both wanted exactly the same outcome. They simply disagreed on how to achieve it. Days passed. Preparations continued. Official schedules remained unchanged. Publicly, everything appeared perfectly normal. Privately, uncertainty remained. Would Leonor read the approved speech? Or would she return to her original version? Even palace staff reportedly didn't know. Finally, the ceremony arrived. The hall filled with dignitaries, military representatives, government officials, international guests. Journalists prepared their cameras. Millions would later watch the event. Leonor stepped toward the podium carrying a single folder. No one except her knew which version rested inside. She greeted the audience calmly, thanked everyone for attending. Then came a brief pause. According to this fictional story, it lasted only 3 seconds. Yet it felt much longer. She looked toward her father. He met her eyes. Neither smiled, neither frowned. Then she began speaking. The opening matched the official script. Several advisors relaxed. Everything seemed under control. But halfway through the speech, she stopped, closed the prepared pages, looked directly at the audience, and spoke without reading. She didn't criticize anyone. She didn't challenge the monarchy. Instead, she simply spoke from the heart. She talked about service, about duty, about young people wanting institutions they could believe in. She admitted that leadership required constant learning. She thanked previous generations while expressing hope that future generations could continue improving. The audience listened in complete silence. No dramatic reactions. No interruptions. Just careful attention. When she finished, applause slowly began. Then it grew louder. Finally, the entire hall stood. Even many palace officials applauded. King Felipe remained seated for a brief moment. His expression revealed nothing. Then, he stood as well. The applause continued. Later that evening, according to this fictional story, newspapers focused less on controversy and more on Leonor's confidence. Commentators debated whether the unscripted moments had been intentional. Some praised her authenticity. Others questioned palace protocol. Inside the palace, advisors expected the king to express frustration. Instead, he reportedly requested a copy of Leonor's original draft. He read every page again. This time, without searching for risks. Only searching for understanding. Near the end, one handwritten sentence caught his attention. It read, "Tradition gives us roots, but honesty gives us a future." He quietly closed the folder. According to this fictional ending, King Felipe finally realized something important. Perhaps protecting the monarchy didn't always mean controlling every word. Perhaps the institution could also be protected by allowing its future queen to speak with sincerity. Because people rarely remember perfect speeches. They remember honest ones. Whether that imagined speech would truly strengthen the crown remains impossible to know. But in this fictional story, it changed one relationship forever. Not because either side won, but because father and daughter finally understood each other a little better. And sometimes, that understanding becomes the strongest foundation any future leader could hope to inherit. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this fictional royal story inspired by public figures, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments. What would you have done if you were in Princess Leonor's position? And if you were King Felipe, would you have allowed the original speech to be delivered? Until next time, thank you for